What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha. Today we're talking about some of my runner's knee meniscus thing updates as we're leading into the official turkey trot season, in addition to the Tokyo Marathon training block. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're subscribed to watch this content. Thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates. Without further ado, let's begin. Let's just kind of get into the overall thought process of things, just kind of whatever comes right off the rip. And yeah, we'll just kind of kick it off. So first things first, if you haven't watched the channel before, I had a case of runner's knee that's self-diagnosed. And before I get any further with this, talk to your doctor about these things. I'm not like the medical professional here. Just everything I'm doing is like self-remediation, things I've watched on YouTube or like things I've read about. And just things I'm also experiencing on the body that were also kind of quirky in weird ways, like the quirks, I guess I could say, of things I feel across the body and how to respond to it. So that's kind of where my expertise is coming from. It's just all that kind of realm of things. So again, runner's knee, self-diagnosed, happened probably after running in a pair of shoes that I'll discuss more in detail another time that have caved in. The shoe eventually like broke, and I started pronating too much in the one particular foot during that tempo session, and as a result of that kind of stress and that overuse, I probably flared up some of the tendons in the patellar area of my knee, and as a result, it kind of put a real damper on my mileage per week. And the thing to note here is I did not stop running as a result of the runner's knee. I was just thinking I could keep running to self-diagnose and kind of work through this particular injury. So whether I delayed my recovery or actually expedited my recovery is still kind of unknown. Just the base timeline from what I've read from people is that general runner's knee and or meniscus damage is repaired in about 6 to 12 weeks. We are about, I'm going to say, 3 weeks into this particular injury. We're almost at the 4-week mark, which will be this Thursday, the 16th. I guess that's correct, right? That was... Man, I don't even know. So that was the first day we had it. And that was week 1, week 2, week 3. So yeah, we're almost at week 4 of this particular runner's knee thing. And it does feel tremendously better, right? So that's the good news of the things overall. The bad news here is that in the process of taking 2 steps forward, I didn't have to take those 2 steps forwards. It's just I took 3 steps back beforehand, right? One of those was just decreasing the running mileage per week as a result of work, just life, being in a runner's rut. The second being that, again, I ended up hurting the knee and I got sick. That's number 3, getting sick before the Chicago Marathon and ultimately not being able to run the Chicago Marathon. So not having that marathon in my training block really did put a damper to my mood and kind of the morale of running overall. But at this stage, seeing how the knee is improving and just kind of reminding myself why we're doing this whole running thing is extremely important to both the recovery of the knee and the morale leading into the Tokyo Marathon. So, that being said, what's working well right now? So, as I mentioned kind of at the beginning, it's like I never stopped running during this whole process. I would run like maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles some days. Like when I was out during a Houston work engagement, I was running like, a 5K some of these days, and I would like maybe run like 2 miles, and then like I ended up skipping a race, and that was like the worst thing I did that week. And like, yeah, I would only run like 15 to 20 miles that particular week. And then from there, as the knee started feeling better when I came home, like this week of Halloween, again, the mileage started increasing a little bit. And even though I was working through certain things like swelling in the knee or abrupt hamstring weakness in the lower area of the hamstring, or just like weird tense moments or weird like tendon spasms, the mileage was able to comfortably start growing. And then last week I was thinking about making a video. I just kind of ran out of time and was kind of busy, but the mileage, I started upping the distance per day leading to my first 30-mile week since the injury, since the Chicago Marathon kind of dropped, I guess you can say. I'm looking at the calendar here. We did have a 40-mile week the week of the Chicago Marathon, it looks like. But that was probably, yeah, that was after, because the 8th was the Chicago Marathon. So I had a 40-mile week after the Chicago Marathon, but instead it just kind of pyramided down, and now we're kind of back at 30 miles a week. So if all goes well and this injury manages to subside, I will have a 35 to 40 mile week leading into Turkey Trot week. Now the trick here is I don't want to just put high volume. I need to start amping up kind of the speed in these workouts. So this 4.5 mile day that I had this morning, it was an interval session of like 400, 800 meters at like 6:30 to 6:20 pace, just to test the knee, see how I was feeling, and see if I can push it a little bit. And the good news is the knee's holding up. It's not like spazzing. It's like bending it in certain ways is kind of weird. It doesn't hurt, but it is kind of weird. But those are not ways that I'm bending while I'm running. So I can get away with it while running at this time. But if I'm trying to do like a single-legged squat with a flat heel, it's going to cause some issues. So that's like something I'm staying away from at this point in time until that kind of gets better. Other thing I'm starting to implement again is ATG squats with my heel raised. So I'll put like, a barbell on the ground, and I'll put my heels on the barbell and kind of have like a high heel squat. So I'm not really putting a lot of emphasis on the joints as much as I am kind of like squatting with a flexed calf, more quad utilization, and as a result kind of keeping the knee a little bit better while working everything else that may be causing me some issues, whether it's in the glutes, whether it's the quads, hamstrings possibly. These are things that are kind of just improving overall, or I'm hoping are, and that's as a result the knee is getting better because everything else around it is getting better. And now speaking of the hamstring, like the sudden weakness was odd, but also kind of expected. I figured it was because I was running a different way and not using the left leg properly while running, or like overcompensating, and as a result the hamstring got a little bit weaker or just more overused. So I went back to the well, you can say, and I started using more Nordic hamstring curls and just trying to implement them at the gym a little bit better. And for those who don't know what the Nordic hamstring curls are, it's like you're usually locked, or you lock your ankles kind of in some kind of, whether it's a machine or like two sets of bars or like a barbell on the ground. And the idea is you want to lean forward with your knees are on the ground, you kind of lean forward, and you want to utilize your hamstrings to kind of hold you in position. And it's an exercise a lot of sprinters like to use just to build some speed as an alternative to constantly sprinting as a running exercise. And what I've noticed by doing the Nordic hamstring curls over time is that my hamstrings got much larger and more defined over time of doing it, and I did get a little bit faster as a result, as like actually expected. And Nordic hamstring curls are one of my favorite leg day workouts to do at this time. It's very difficult to replicate at the new gym that I'm in, whereas in Chicago it was like I had the ultimate machine to do it, and it was like super cool to do, and it was just a lot of fun. But I digress. Been trying to implement my variation of them at this other gym just to see if I can target this weak hamstring, and I have been targeting it, luckily. It's just the trick now is to consistently target it as a strength and conditioning exercise as we kind of move into, this post-injury recovery phase. Because I know even though we are like almost a month into runner's knee, it's still going to have some remedial effects as I move forward. So it's going to be important to continuously recover at this point. Make sure any sort of ankle injuries I may have had in the past don't surface. Make sure this knee doesn't cause me any issues as we're running. So that's kind of just the thing now. It's like focus on the bigger picture. Remember what gave me code red, code orange vibes on my body, and just kind of work through those things as we move along. So that kind of moves us into training. Like I said, I'm going to start implementing more speed work. Try to get a 40-mile week this week. And then as we get into the Turkey Trot week, take it easy for those 3 days. On race day, who knows what the pace is going to be. I have no real idea what it's going to be. If I end up running like 7:30 pace on race day, it is what it is, right? If I'm able to put good speed work this week, and I find myself running, 6:45 or 6:30 pace at the very least, I don't think it would get any higher than that, but you never know sometimes. If I can run a 10K at 6:30 pace, like, man, am I in a good spot. And that's going to be, like, awesome when it comes to leading up to my Tokyo Marathon training block, because that training plan, once the time is up and I'm ready to reveal that plan and kind of just, like, lay it out on the board for, like, that 15-week block, it's going to be insane. I, like, kind of can't wait to show that one off, because it's going to be something. Like, it's going to be insane. It's going to be what training was in 2019 into 2020, with the obvious caveat that I am still 3 steps behind, barely 2 steps up, and I need to find a way not to skip a step, but to expedite those steps to get into that 2019, 2020 mindset and fitness that I had. So that's kind of the gist of what's going on at this point. And of course, try not to relapse into another runner's knee injury. So use my brain while I'm running and try not to use shoes that are broken. That's kind of another important thing, right? So I think those are the only updates I've got for my running schedule. And like, again, I want to get some more like running vlog content out when the time is right. It's not easy to do when I'm not running outside. I don't want to like film myself on a treadmill. And I'm sure some people would like love to do that, but you know, like to film themselves, I mean, but I'm not that person. Like maybe if I had somebody filming me instead, it could be different, but again, I just don't want to like set up my camera and just like do that, I guess. So we'll see. Once we're outside again, or running in the snow, or running in who knows where, like Florida when the time comes. Because, again, that's on my calendar, is the Lifetime Half Marathon in January in Miami, Florida. Maybe we'll get some content there. Who knows? But, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So it's been a bit of hell, you know, of getting sick before the Chicago Marathon, not being able to race, getting an injury after the Chicago Marathon, even though I didn't race, getting sick again right now before the turkey trot season. But knee is recovering, but my fitness is kind of crap. So there's a lot going on, but we just got to keep our head down and just keep moving forward. And that's the only thing we can really do. So that's all I've got, I think. So I'll leave the video here. If you have any similar experiences or any feedback or anything of that sort, let me know in the comments below. Until then, I'll see you next one.